When we get down to the tail shaft retainer and we look at it, it has a countersink hole in it. And so that's going to be a new feature that we haven't had before. The diameter of the flange is 375 and the thickness is 0.65. So let's put that in here. So are we going to have a flange? Yes. Are we going to have a neck? No. That's that undercut. We can still leave this 15 thousandths in here. That doesn't really change anything. Does it have a chamfer on it? No. Does it have a concentric hole? It's just not just a regular hole, so no. Does it have, is there a dimension for that concentric hole? We're just going to put it in a 1. Does it have a revolved hole? No. Does it have a countersink hole? We're going to compute that. So this is the only one that has a countersink hole. I need to get you the diameter of that countersink at the face though, because it's missing. And let me show you this right here. That's what's missing right here. So I'll get you guys the number for that, okay? Alright, so the next one that we have, and let's go ahead and get, this is what we're going to call our pin diameter, which is 0.25, and the overall length is 65 plus 35 is 0.1, right? Yeah, so 0.1 by 0.25 in diameter. So the length is 0.1, and then the diameter is 0.25. Okay, let's look at the next part and see what's different. We go to the crank pin, the oil pump shaft is the next page. And it has a diameter, a length, but it has a new feature, and that is a perpendicular hole. It's perpendicular to a plane that goes through this part. Now, one thing I want you guys to remember is that holes, you cannot extrude both ways. They can only be extruded through all one direction. So you may want to put a tangent plane, tangent to this cylinder, and parallel to the plane that goes right through the middle. And it doesn't matter which plane goes right through the middle, but it needs to go through that axis. So we're going to put in a perpendicular hole here. So if I go all the way down here, I put in another qualifier here, another thing in my thing that says a perpendicular hole, and we're going to compute that in this next part. So if I can just make this smaller, if I can make this smaller, the oil shaft has a perpendicular hole. We're going to compute that, and then we're going to suppress and everything else. So once again, you can click on this cell and drag it all the way down for it to copy it. Does it have a countersink hole? No. Does it have a revolved hole? No. What's a concentric hole diameter? We don't have one, so we're going to put a 1 in there. We're going to suppress it. Does it have a chamfer on it? Does it have a chamfer? No, so we're going to suppress it. Does it have a neck? No. Does it have a flange? No. So do we care about the flange thickness? No, so we're putting a 1 as a placeholder in there. So what is the length of the part? The length of the part is 1.19 and the diameter is 125. So let's put those in there. Was that 1.19? And then 0.25? That's tiny. 0.125. You guys think about how tiny these are. 0.125. So every time we're typing a number in here, it's going to recalculate that. Now we're going to go to our crank pin. Crank pin. Right there. Crank pin is 1.375 in length and 0.375 in diameter. That's easier for me to remember. 0.375 and 1.375. Does it have a flange? No, so we're going to put in a 1 for both of those. And we're going to suppress it. Does it have a neck? No. Does it have a chamfer? No. It does have a concentric hole, though. That's 187. So let's go see if that's the same size. So does it have a chamfer? No. Does it have a concentric hole? Yes. What's a concentric hole diameter? It's 0.187. Thought so. I thought it said 187. Let me see. Drill 187, yes. And then does it have a revolved hole? No. Does it have a countersink hole? No. Does it have a perpendicular hole? No. Next one, wrist pin. Wrist pin. Looks pretty similar, doesn't it? You guys think you can handle that one? The wrist pin? It's just a different diameter, different length, and it is going to compute the concentric hole, and you want to put this in here. Okay? All right, what's the next part that we have? The big rod end bushing long. Big rod end bushing. There's a long one. There's a long one that's $3.95, and there's a short one that's $1.95. Okay? This is the long one. So you're going to put $3.95 in there for its length, and then you're going to use the same diameter for the hole and the same diameter for the shaft for both of those. Okay? The only difference is the length of that. Okay. These are two parts. The only difference is the length. So the diameter is the same. The hole is the same, but the length is different. So for the long one, we're going to make that $3.95 long and $4.36 in diameter. Is that right? Can't ever remember these. $3.76 and $4.36 in diameter. I'm sorry, $4.36 in diameter and $3.95 in the length. $4.36 and $3.95. I'm dyslexic. Does that make sense? A 1 here, a 1 here. I want you guys to fill this one in. Does it have a flange? Does it have a neck? Does it have a chamfer? Does it have a concentric hole? Compute. What's the diameter of that concentric hole? This one right here? 376, right? Good. So this is 0.376. Does it have a revolved hole? Does it have a countersink hole? Does it have a perpendicular hole? Okay? Now the rod end, this is the long one, and this is the next part, small rod end bushing. Here's a big rod end bushing short. I just had to put it down at the bottom. So we know that the diameter is the same, right? So this is 0.436. It's the length. The difference in these is the length. So this one's only 195 long. Everything else is the same.
You have two. You have rod big end and then you have rod small end. And then you have a big rod end at the end.
If I move this up here, this is big rod big end bushing long, big rod bushing short. Okay, it's the same thing. It's just named something different. So there's a long and a short of this. And what was the length? 195. Don't have this, we'll put in a 1, we'll put in a 1 there, we'll suppress it here, we'll suppress this, we'll suppress the chamfer and suppress the concentric hole. Concentric hole? No, it's going to be computed. And that's going to be the same as that, 376. Suppress, suppress, suppress.